Hello everyone, my name is Razan, and welcome back to Newtype Netplay, the series where I take a look at my old Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme vs. Maxi match footage, and just chat about it with y'all, and chronicle my growth and development as a player of this game over many months and many hours of playtime. Honestly, just way too many hours of my life have been spent playing MBON in the past year and a half or so. So, we are on episode 16. We are almost to the end of my first phase as a Gundam MBON player. We are getting close to the end of that beta period that happened prior to the game's release, and we are almost out of those pre-release days and into the full version of the game, which I used from episode 21 and onward, I believe, were recorded using the full game after it had finally come out. So, we were getting to the end of the early days of MBON and moving along towards my more serious time with the full game being out and being able to spend a lot more time just getting into the nitty-gritty of this game and what it has to offer. So I can't wait to get to that and see me get even better and better and try out more and more unique suits as we continue going on here. And I get to look back on all those matches that I recorded oh so long ago. So, what I'm doing right here is I'm playing the Gundam Deathscythe Hell, a suit I like a lot from a series that I don't necessarily like all that much. So, yeah, I feel like there was a time, especially when I was growing up, where it was just kind of assumed that you liked Gundam Wing if you said you were a Gundam fan, but I feel like it's been so much time, so many young people have probably grown up and become Gundam fans post-Toonami. You know, there's so many people who, like, barely even know what Toonami is other than a thing that old weirdos like myself talk about. And then eventually, I guess it came back in, like, when did Toonami come back again? Like 2014 or something like that? It finally came back and is, like, a thing now again, but I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of grew up in that in-between period and became Gundam fans through other stuff since. That Gundam Wing fandom is not necessarily assumed if you're a Western person and you're like, oh yeah, I like Gundam. In fact, I feel like it is very popular now for people like me to say, I don't really like Gundam Wing all that much. Gundam Wing is a series I have complicated feelings about because it is so chaotic, and I've seen very little Riverdale in my life, but what I always want to describe it as, and I feel like is probably true in a very broad strokes sense, is it's like the Riverdale Gundam. It's so chaotic, and it kind of leans into it and knows how ridiculous it is. And that can be both its greatest strength and also its detriment, because in spite of having all of that chaotic energy to work with, you also have to still make like a story around that, and if you don't go anywhere with it, or if you don't go anywhere interesting, or don't really think that part out, it's still not gonna be good in the long run. And that's such a bummer to me. I rewatched Wing not too long ago, and watching those early episodes, I was like, wow, there's a lot more here than I remember in terms of stuff to really dig into. And then the middle part of Wing happens, and it's like, oh no, they don't know what the fuck's going on. And then the director switch happens around halfway around, you know, the show. The old director got thrown out, and they were like, okay, a new person's in charge. And at that point, it's like, wow, this ship is sailing, and you're just trying to salvage the best of what you can with it. And it's just a really tragic but interesting mess to see. Because when I feel like when Gundam Wing is at its strongest and it's really working, it is so fun, and it has the best type of energy of taking itself just enough seriously to still keep you invested in what the characters are doing, while still knowing that it's ridiculous and super melodramatic. It's a very goofy time. I highly recommend if you're maybe a newer Gundam fan or a younger Gundam fan and you haven't gone back and watched Wing or whatever. Maybe you're like me and, you know, I started with G Gundam and I had to go back and watch Wing after, because when Wing came out, I wasn't really interested in it. I was kind of, I think, too young for it. So I watched G Gundam, and then later on I tracked down Wing when I was a little bit older. And that was my second Gundam series, and then I went and watched the rest of Gundam from there, and that's my story of how I became a lifelong Gundam fan. So, but yeah, I think that Wing is an interesting series worth watching just to enjoy the chaos of it all, if you ever have the time to go back and watch that. So yeah, and yeah, I really, speaking more of the suit itself here, I really like the Deathscythe and all of its iterations a lot. I really like the Endless Waltz version, actually, probably the most. In fact, I think, as a whole, maybe not Sandrock, but I feel like I enjoy the Endless Waltz versions of the wingsuits more than I do the TV show versions, just because I feel like it fits the ridiculousness more. They have a lot more personality, and they're a lot more over the top compared to the more grounded, more down-to-earth designs that they had originally. Like the Deathscythe here is, I feel like, the perfect encapsulation of that, where it is the most demonic edgelord Grim Reaper Batwing bullshit. Pointy knees, pointy toes, just looks ridiculous, and I love it so much. Same, honestly, with Heavy Arms Custom, which, I don't know, I go back and forth these days. Either Heavy Arms Custom Endless Waltz or Deathscythe Hell Endless Waltz those are probably tied for my favorite wing design overall. But ask me on any given day, and I might say one over the other. Alex did a good job of hopping away from my bullshit there, and I got a little too greedy there. So yeah, part of the reason I decided to play the suit is I was still in that phase where I was like, you know, I want to play some close quarters stuff. Why don't I go in and try playing one of the OG original Melee Gundams, none other than the Deathscythe Hell Endless Waltz. And, you know, as you could expect, there's a lot of stuff you can do at close range with this suit, and it's really a suit made for going in, which is very, very interesting to play, in part because it also kind of has its stealth capabilities, as seen in the show and OVA as well. So you have a cloak that you can, well, okay, I shouldn't say cloak, you have a hyper jammer, I believe it's called, that you can use to basically turn invisible. It hides your little targeting UI and the target itself, and the enemy can still lock onto you, but they can't really see you, or even, like you can see here, I'm fighting this other Deathscythe Hell. And hey, who knows, maybe we'll see it from the other perspective of this match if this Deathscythe Hell activates their own hyper jammer, because I believe the TV version has a hyper jammer as well. But yeah, basically that entire lock reticle disappears, the UI, yep, right there, you can see. But that also brings up the other point. That was a very bad use of that Deathscythe's hyper jammer, because when you are in this phase that I'm in right now, for one thing, you activate it, you automatically go out of it if you attack or reveal yourself in any form like that. Works like a lot of cloaking devices do in a lot of games, where as soon as you're no longer being passive, as soon as you start to take on more of an active like action or something like that, the cloak breaks. I need to stop saying cloak, because we also have this, which is literally the active cloak, is what it's called. And it's basically a more defensive turtle form that you can go into to hide, essentially, and defend against oncoming attacks and whatnot. But enough about that, more talk about the hyper jammer. So you can basically go into that hyper jammer and then evade a bunch of bullshit. It's a very good thing to use for running away, or if both of the enemies aren't paying attention to you, it's also very good to use it, honestly, just to get in and go for an ambush. It's very, very good at that. Thankfully, that Deathscythe wasn't able to kill me, and my partner was able to close out the round there. But you may have noticed I said, ooh, that Deathscythe Hell I was fighting was very, very bad at using that, or I shouldn't say very bad, that's a very unfair assumption to make, but the Deathscythe Hell chose a very poor time in that one instance to activate the hyper jammer, because something important to note, if you do end up getting clipped by a attack in the hyper jammer form, which is very easy after you just activated and you're kind of stuck in the activation phase and you can't move yet, it's very hard to hit a jammed Deathscythe when they're moving around, I will say, unless you have a very big AoE type attack that you can catch them with, because the tracking is basically all gone and non-existent. So it's very, very tricky to actually hit someone who's jammed. But if you do hit a jammed Deathscythe, they will take a 1.5 times damage multiplier. So you can't move around willy-nilly when you're jammed as Deathscythe Hell, either version of it. You have to be careful. You have to make sure that you're not going to get attacked, because it'll chew for your health, especially if you get hit by a Garobi or something like, God forbid you get hit by a super or something like the either of the Gundam X or the Gundam Double X. God forbid you get hit by the satellite cannon or something. Your health is just gone. That would be ridiculous. I don't know if I've seen that happen necessarily, but anything that hits big like that is going to do a number on your health. So be careful about that. Let's talk a little bit about that active cloak, though, too. You have a more defensive cloaking turtle cloak that you can go through, and you just saw me do the super there. You basically do a Warp Strike Final Fantasy 15 style, where you throw a little bit or dagger or whatever that is, I forget what it is necessarily, and then you teleport behind, like, the Shadow the Hedgehog edgelord that Duo is, and just stab him right in the back real proper good. So, God, that super is really cool. But Active Cloak is a defensive cloak stance that you can take that basically, as long as it's active, it starts to drain away its ammo count, and every time you get hit, the attack will basically bounce off of the cloak. So you're basically invulnerable, but the downside is that you can't really do melee attacks necessarily in the same way. You can kind of do like these weird hops and kicks and stuff, but like it's not nearly as effective as your normal moveset. You can still call this Ultron Assist though, thankfully, when you have the cloak active. And you can also use Vulcan cannons as your main projectile, which replaces your little Deathscythe. You see right there, you kind of send out like a little wave thing that you can do. The Active Cloak is something that I feel like I was not very good at using, even though it is a very integral part of the Deathscythe's moveset at higher levels, I know for a fact. But I just never felt like I was good enough to really use that, especially compared to the Hyper Jammer, which I probably am not that proficient with either, but it was kind of hard getting a good sense for when I should activate that Active Cloak, because it really is such a defensive-oriented stance that it's kind of hard to maybe go in sometimes and find opportunities to use it to capitalize off of situations and stuff like that. And one other move that I have that maybe I feel like I probably didn't use, something that sometimes I fall into the bad habit of, is I don't pay attention to when my suits have charge moves, which you can see I have a charge move over in the over by the projectile ammo count, and I believe it's literally the Deathscythe Hell Endless Waltz throws a Tauros at the enemy and it explodes, and it's kind of just another projectile type attack that you can use when you're out of your main wave beam scythe, beam scissors slash, or whatever you want to call it. I just realized we were Team Wing there for a second. My two favorite suits fighting side by side. Beautiful stuff. Actually, funny enough, I feel like Heavy Arms, Endless Waltz, and Deathscythe Hell, very complementary suits in terms of what they do. One goes in, one's all about attacking from that mid-range and just spamming projectiles. I feel like they're very complementary to one another. This is also a pretty solid team setup, in my opinion. Having the Penelope. Penelope's just very good at fronting in general, I feel. Such a brute of a suit. That rhymed. I didn't even intend to do that. But I feel like Penelope, when paired with a 2.5k, can really go to town and very scary to fight against a Penelope that knows what they're doing. Especially, the Penelope just feels so tanky, especially, too, because it kind of has the, whenever the flight unit of the Penelope falls off and it turns into the Odysseus, I always think that's really neat, because the Penelope has that invulnerable transformation switch, and if the opponent fucks up while that transformation's happening and tries to attack you when you're invulnerable, it's very easy to come out of that phase and just go for a counterattack, taking advantage of your invincibility frames, is what I was trying to say there. And trying to close out the round here, this unicorn is not paying attention to what they're doing. I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. I should have bursted way earlier than that, but it's okay, because they ended up Verneering to try to get that shot. Should have just started running away. But, oh well. I could have bursted way earlier there and probably been a little bit faster about closing out that round. Solid match overall, that one. So yeah, overall, I feel like this suit is a very interesting suit that I feel like would appeal to a lot of people who want to try melee suits in this game, but want something that's a little more... like, I feel like the Iron-Blooded Orphan suits are kind of straightforward with what they want you to do. The G Gundam suits, I feel like, are also fairly straightforward in their own way, but maybe have a few more interesting, unique tools. Like you can see here, the burning using the horse and stuff like that, and also has the flame pillar to stun enemies to find opportunities to get in. Shining Gundam is also kind of... Ooh, look at that. That is another move that's worth pointing out. You also have a parry move, where you stun them and then go, right... See, I tried to spam it there. I'm getting cocky. Yeah, I got it a second time. Fuck yeah. I love parry moves in MBON. as soon as you land them, you feel so fucking cool. That was one of the two Burning Gundam supers that existed that I actually forgot about when I eventually ended up recording my Burning Gundam match, so I'm sorry about that, but at least you got to see it here. Yeah, some suits in this game, especially in the 3K category, have two supers, which is neat. Unfortunately for the enemy, that G-Self ended up dying before that Burning did, so now the Burning's gonna spawn in overcost. I should have just went for the Burning right away, but I was focusing on that G-Self, I guess, trying to just do whatever I could. We are in very good position here, health-wise. Did the classic Rosenbrand special there, where I started getting attacked, and as soon as I saw that they were going in, I was like, let me just call my homing assist right here, and managed to cut myself with the Ultron assist, so that was beautiful. Beautiful way to end the game there. I'm always happy when I manage to pull that off. You gotta be careful with when you go in like that for a combo on any suit that has a assist like that. Gotta be very, very careful. Fighting the Dragon Gundam here, which I always laugh because I know the mecha designer who did the suits for G and Wing, whose name is escaping me right now. I can't remember exactly the designer that was specifically attached for Wing and G. I know I'm a bad Gundam fan, but sometimes this type of trivia eludes me. I apologize. But I remember there was an interview where he talked about all of the different Wing designs that he had done. And when it came to the Ultron, he was like, yeah, I feel like I designed that one. I was still kind of in that G Gundam mood, which is very funny because the it really, like, the Ultron Gundam really does just look like the Dragon Gundam here. Very, very funny design. And Wu Fei's other Gundam, which I forget, is the Ultron the first or the second? Let me double check here. Ultron Gundam. Oh yeah, and then the Shenlong Gundam. Yeah, both of them kind of feel like they have that G Gundam energy to them. The Shenlong was the one he specifically talked about, like, oh yeah, I designed Shenlong when I still kind of had G Gundam on the brain. Though I feel like there's still a lot of that spirit that lasts in Wing from G. Like, the Epyon very clearly feels like it takes cues. Honestly, both the Epyon and the Deathscythe in their own ways, especially the Hell Endless Waltz version here. Kind of feel, well, I guess maybe not the Deathscythe so much now that I look at it, but Epyon especially, I feel like the Epyon takes a lot of cues from the Master Gundam, which the Epyon and the Master Gundam are both suit designs I also enjoy a lot. Only got a few more matches here, but yeah, I had a really good time playing this suit. If you want something that, I believe I was starting to talk about this, and that I didn't finish my point, as I often do in these videos when there's so much going on to commentate on. I think this is a suit that will appeal to people who want something a little more outside of the box from the more traditional and straightforward melee-oriented suits that are all about rushing in and using your toolset to rush in, because this suit is so capable of evading and defending itself as well, especially like the parry and stuff too. In many ways, the Deathscythe Hell Endless Waltz feels like a very responsive suit and reactionary suit compared to some of the other melee suits in this game that I feel like are a lot more proactive and want you to go out on the hunt more. Whereas this one, it feels like it kind of wants you to weave in and out of the battle in very interesting ways and gives you the tools to do so. That was my main point I was saying there when I started bringing up all the other melee suits in this game. Got supered by my friend, but I honestly deserved it because I got confused and went in on the full cloth here when I shouldn't have at all. I really jumped the gun there, again, doing that thing I always tend to do in these videos early on, where I did not know how to control myself and not interrupt my partner's combo and let them just do their thing, because that's what you gotta do in this game. The more is not the merrier in this game, is the moral of the story. I was kind of being selfish that match. I got better with time. I promise. Always good to see another Crossbone Gundam X2 player out in the horizon. I feel like nowadays when I play, the Crossbone X2 feels fewer and further between than it used to in the early days. I feel like I saw a lot more X2 players like myself. Though, that being said, I also switch suits so often in this game to record these videos that I don't always get my beloved X2 time in that I wish I could. God, I love that charge attack you do too, where you pass through them like that too. Really good stuff. I feel like a lot of people also really underestimate the capabilities that this suit has at range when you, especially when you combine the wave like beam scissors attack, as well as the homing assist that you have with the Ultron assist. Because so many people think, oh, Deathscythe, I just don't need to get close or whatever. I just need to be careful when approaching. But no, see, look right there, trying to shoot at me, and I'm just gonna swing my waves at you, and I'm going to summon my buddy Wu Fei to do something good in his life for once and help me out. God, Wu Fei is such a fucking terrible character. I just need to get that out right now. God, fuck Wu Fei, just absolute worst Gundam boy. Just terrible. The entire way through the series, and even into the OVA, just a little shit stain of a person. I know, your wife died, get over it. But whatever. I'll see you next time for some more MBON gameplay. Have a good night, everyone.